And boom goes the dynamite.
Let's get ready to rumble. Welcome, everybody. This is the Daily Dive, the only live lacrosse talk show Monday through Friday. I am Michael Karvelis, and on the show today, our top story will be Philadelphia Wings might just be legit. They swept the weekend, as I predicted, taking down the Rock last night. We'll break down that game and who really stood out, or especially one guy in particular. We'll also look at NLL attendances now that they were officially released to us. And of course, yesterday we touched on them a little bit. You saw a tweet come out, but I'll break it down for you guys. And of course, we'll have our big guest by Fanatics, Cooper Perkins, come on the show and talk about Stadium Showdown. Cannot wait to see what it was like in San Diego and also what he thought of the game itself. And of course, we'll also go in the last segment. We'll talk about our 3 stars of the weekend. Who were they now that all the games have been played? So it's time to let you guys know that we are presented by the Daily Dive store. That is our top story. Go to our social media bios. Check out Daily Dive Lax on Instagram and Twitter. And when you go there, you'll obviously see our link tree. Click that and click the store tab. I told you guys I would, and I did. And I bought myself a 4XT Daily Dive t-shirt. It's going to look awesome. It's going to look clean. I'm going to try to wear it as much shows as I can. It'll probably come in the mail in 1 or 2 weeks. You know how that goes with logistics and all. But go to Daily Dive Lax and check out the link tree. Click the store tab. Get you some Daily Dive merch. Support the Daily Dive as we grow the game here. And of course, our top story, the Philadelphia Wings might just be legitimate. I mean, they looked pretty good last night. After beating the Riptide 19-12 and holding GFT to one more goal than I scored this weekend, then they had a task of taking on the Toronto Rock. Now, I know the Toronto Rock had just played a tough Rochester team, but the Rock, to be fair, fought very hard in this game. Well, I do think the Wings did benefit greatly and mightily from that aspect. I would like to bring up that Zach Higgins, what a dang weekend for that dude. I have sung his praises a few times on the show recently, saying the Wings have a good goaltender who's not being talked about. Zach Higgins is the name, and winning is the game. The Wings, I believe, what are they now? 5-5. Let's take a look at this. There it is. There it is. That's on the NLL social medias right there. San Diego Seals 7-2. Calgary 7-4. Boy, Calgary did not play this week. And it feels like every team played, but just, no, they didn't play. Then we also see the Rush right there, Panther City. But that's the West. I knew I was going to bring up the wrong one, but you get it. There's the Western Conference standings. In the Eastern Conference standings, there's only 4 teams that make the playoffs. And by the way, the fact that the Wings, I believe they're 500 now. Huge win for them. Mitch Jones has been a great addition. I do apologize for getting that was a stupid graphic. Woo! Anyways, the fact is the Wings looked awesome. Zach Higgins was standing on his head and deserves all of our complete respect. The dude was a magician. I know the joke of the night for the play-by-play team was how many crossbars were the Toronto Rock going to hit. But Rock played a good game. And it was interesting how poor the offense of the Wings looked. I know scoring 19 against the Riptide, you feel good about yourselves, but it's the Riptide, and they've done that a few times this year, letting teams pepper them. Well, in this game, the shot discrepancy was absolutely incredibly bad. Like, the Wings could not get past their own timeline, much less get off a shot. They had multiple turnovers in the game. This game was solely based on Zach Higgins being awesome. Now, Blaze Jordan had like 2 clutch goals. Ben McIntosh looked good at times. Mitch Jones, who's slow but can still snipe it, he like another 5 or 6 points in the win last night after dropping 14 in the win against the Riptide, including a team record 8 assists and a team record 14 points. But the point is, the Wings relied heavily on Zach Higgins last night. And sneak preview, he was in strong consideration for our 3 stars of the weekend at the end of this segment. But right now, the story is Philadelphia Wings, and I believe the broadcast did say they had 6,200 people there, which I guess was reported to them before it could get to your boys at the Daily Dive. And I also want to mention our awesome and wonderful host, Renee Washington, was there. Shout out Renee, who got some time on the big screen in Wells Fargo Center. That is freaking awesome for Renee. They were like celebrating women in sports. So it was awesome that Renee Washington was able to get up there and represent Daily Dive. Okay, she wasn't representing Daily Dive. She was representing herself, but you get it. Great job for the Wings, and that was awesome that they invited her to do that. So it was pretty cool that she was able to be there. Again, Zach Higgins was great. I'm very concerned the Wings' offense was as weird as it looked, because Higgins, if he was not playing well, they might have gotten absolutely destroyed. I don't even see how they scored enough goals to win the game. That still blows my mind. Blows my mind. Back to those NLL attendances, though, because I mentioned there were 6,200 last night, according to the broadcast in Philadelphia. Our pinned tweet on Daily Dive Lax has Toronto at 10,229, but I wanted to get to the San Diego aspect of things because all year long we talked about how they got like 4,000 people there. And the Seals are such a good team. They're stacked up with stars. So I was wondering, like, what's going on with the marketing there? I was thinking 6,000 would have been a win, in my opinion. I'm no sales guy. I don't look in too deep to that stuff. I just like looking at how many people were there, and they doubled up what we've been seeing all year. 8,443 people is simply awesome. They brought it to the fans, and the fans bought in. But there was also a game to be played. And I'm not here to break it down. I'm not good at that stuff. Cooper Perkins is. So when I come back, Cooper Perkins, friend of the show, probably the best friend of the show at this point, at least in my eyes. We'll be right back and talk to Cooper Perkins on the other side, the broadcaster for the Seals. He had the privilege of doing that game. We're going to see what happened in the Stadium Showdown. What was it like being there? Cannot wait to get his thoughts next. Don't go anywhere. Our big guest presented by Fanatics is the awesome Cooper Perkins, who had the privilege and the awesomeness of calling the game with the San Diego Seals and the Desert Dogs in the Stadium Showdown. Cooper, welcome back to the show, sir. How are you?
I'm great. You called me a best friend of the show right before the break. How could I not be feeling good?
Hey, listen, there's some people that come on the show a lot, and you, sir, are one of them. Thank you for that. And hey, at least we cleaned up the audio issue, so that's awesome.
We love that.
We get to hear the full voice this time, which is great. Okay, you were there in San Diego, obviously. And I have to ask you immediately, How does Snapdragon feel hosting a box lacrosse fan? I know they do a lot of cool things with like planning the field and everything. How did it feel being there? What did the fans talk about? What did you like about it?
It was spectacular. I hosted an event at Snapdragon Stadium back in November, just an empty stadium, nothing going on there, and got a chance to try and imagine what it would look like. And my imagination was totally off. What they ended up doing was so much better and more put together. Having the box in one of the end zones and kind of in a horseshoe shape as opposed to trying to plop it in the middle of the stadium was brilliant. And it was great. My broadcast partner, Nick Casello, made the point after the game that the concourse felt like a college football game at halftime. People up, going to get beers, concessions, doing the whole thing. And there was just an energy about it that you don't get at your average NLL game. It felt like a college football environment, which was so much fun because it's so different than everything we get. Now, there are drawbacks, it's open air. So the noise doesn't stay in the same way. I don't think it got as loud as it would at your normal NLL game, which is a pro and a con. For us on the broadcast side, it's great because sometimes the volume can be a little bit much. It can be hard having the music on at all times. But from the other side, from an environment standpoint, you might want to have a little bit more of that held in, a little bit more of that reverberation. So it was an interesting thing to see. I think it was what most people around the organization expected in those areas. But it was great. It was awesome. So many of the players' families made it into town for that, which was particularly special. So I had the opportunity to talk to Dane Dobie's parents, Trey LeClair's parents. It was just this whole big family environment that was different from your average NLL weekend. And it had a lot more to do than just the game being played outside. It turned it into this big spectacle that everyone got to participate in. And what the most special part of it was is that everyone involved in it seemed to recognize that at the time, just how special it was and how monumental of a moment it was for the league. And it seemed like everyone was totally in the moment. There was no one who was there thinking about next week's game against Saskatchewan for the Seals or what's against Vancouver for Las Vegas. It was just this total moment that's rare where everyone is totally in the present. And it was special. I think that's the best way to put it.
You're great at saying stuff, and I think you just said that perfectly for everybody here. Because, from Washington, Georgia, the Spider Cam obviously stands out. I don't know if the broadcasters see that. I've heard they don't. I'm sure you've watched it. It looked great from where we were looking. But you're right. It did feel different. The arena not being as loud, I'm sure the home field advantage is not there. But to your point about everybody being in the moment, I love the outfits of the coaches. That was the first thing I noticed was that was so cool seeing those guys get up for the moment. That was awesome.
Yeah, and it was actually the whole Vegas team. They just have to wear uniforms during the game, so fans at home didn't get to see that. But they all rolled into the arena for the first time, walked out on the box about 2 hours before game time, head to toe in Elvis attire. That was their travel theme. And I was surprised to see Sean and the rest of the coaching staff keep their Elvis suits on throughout the game. But it was great. Everyone was just leaning into it. And the Seals had their Juan Soto San Diego Padres uniforms that they were all wearing, and
those are cool.
Just had a different loose energy about it that I think might be something that's missing from your average NLL game. It really felt like everyone involved was having fun, and there's not enough fun in professional sports. It's a problem when you have to comment on it looks like this team is having fun, because that insinuates that on most weeks they're not. And I think in this instance, both teams and everyone in the building was just having a blast. And it was impossible not to because of the setting, because of all the pomp and circumstance, all the planning that went into it. It was just so refreshing because it really did feel like what I imagined those guys growing up playing in outdoor boxes in Canada got to feel like growing up. It has to have been a return to their roots, just on so much bigger of a stage with so many more bells and whistles involved with it.
I have to ask you about this here, because 8,500 people pretty much showed up for that game, according to our numbers, and that's like double what the Steelers have been getting. How cool is it for you to see the more fans being there? I know it probably felt different with the stadium aspect, but how cool, you had to have noticed there were more people there, right?
Oh, without a doubt. It just because it was only in a portion of the stadium doesn't mean you can't feel how many people are there. And I think that the broadcast did a really good job of capturing that with a few shots where you could get a sense of just how full that portion of the bowl was. I think what's so difficult about being in San Diego is that you're competing against the outdoors, right? You're competing against surf
Yep.
and you're competing against going out and hanging outside and just soaking in what is a beautiful place to live. Whereas in other places, you are competing against the snow and it's easy to convince people to come inside. So to have people get to enjoy the balance of both of those things, right? Come enjoy a lacrosse game, but still be outside, enjoy what San Diego is, I think spoke to a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily come out for a game otherwise. And because of that, you got a lot of, a big number. You got a lot of people that showed up. And, I know that the sales really picked up the last, couple of days beforehand. And, as the weather cleared out, it seems like people got their idea that, hey, let's go do this. Let's check this out. And it's a great opportunity to build from, in trying to, build that fan base and get more people out to games. But I think that so much of it comes back to embracing what that city is, and taking a game outside in San Diego is so uniquely important to kind of the ethos of what that citizenry looks like. It's an outdoorsy place. It's a very healthy, fit community where people like to be outside. So bringing the lacrosse to them instead of having them come to the lacrosse is a really great way to bridge that gap.
Now you got me thinking about should the Seals just be outside all the time? Like that just sounds like a cool thing to do if they can do that every day. Sweet.
Yeah, I think that there would be a few people who might run out of gas if their jobs were to make that happen every week. But it's a cool idea, no doubt. It's a cool idea, and in a fantasy land, it would be a lot of fun. But
Right.
I don't know how realistic that is, given all the tremendous amount of planning that went into making that happen.
So you ever played Candyland? Come on. So the Seals aspect of it, how are they able to win it? Because I remember tuning into the fourth quarter, I'm like, this game's kind of close. I want this to be a rivalry because it's Las Vegas and San Diego. It's like the two Western Conference teams. How did this one play out for you? What was the difference with the Seals?
What I thought was impressive is that this was the first instance in which I think you can say that the Seals played a 60-minute game.
Oh.
There was no period of taking time off or looking discombobulated. Credit to Las Vegas. They're a good team. Whether people want to believe that or not, they're a really good team. And there's a reason they were able to keep that game close and lead 10-9 midway through the third quarter. And the credit there belongs in San Diego. It's not an indictment on Las Vegas that the Seals were able to pull away. They just showed how much talent they have and how good they can be when that talent is all clicking at the same time. So I think it really was a great illustration of what they want their team to look like on a week-to-week basis. And I think we're going to see more of that as they play more games consecutively. Having all of these off weeks between games really makes it difficult to build that chemistry, to build that consistency, to build that routine. And I think the more that they play, because they do have a backloaded schedule, the more you're going to see them settle into that routine, settle into that comfortability with each other. And this was a great jumping off point to begin the second half of the season, because Vegas is a big challenge and you need to play a 60-minute game to beat them because, Sean Williams will tell you they're the 12-round fighter. They want to hang around until the end and try and land that knockout blow when you're not looking. And the Seals did a great job fighting that off. It went 12 rounds. It went down to the last 5 minutes or so of that game, and they put it away. So credit to them for putting together a complete performance. And they picked the perfect time to do it, given what the setting looked like.
60-minute game. That's what we've been bashing on the Seals for on the show. We're nitpicking the great teams. That's what we do here. So I guess my next question, you kind of answered it, but Desert Dogs, if they make the playoffs, because it's a possibility, I guess teams have to respect them. It's not like just a pipe dream of, well, they're here, they made it, that's their championship.
Yeah, they have so many different options available to them. They're a balanced team that is young and growing. And I talked to Sean Williams last week before the game, and he made a point that, every team only gets about 3 weeks of training camp. So in the early season, the more the veteran teams that have been together longer tend to look better because they don't have that adjustment period that they need to try and work through. Whereas a younger team like them that obviously is in its first year together is going to take a little bit more time to start to come together. And you saw that in February when they went 3-0. I don't think that that's a team that's going to go away. Now, granted, their schedule certainly doesn't get easier, right? They play San Diego 2 more times. They have Saskatchewan in there, Calgary, Colorado. So it's not easy for them by any stretch, but they're going to be competitive, I think, in every game that they play. And because they're always going to be competitive, you have to respect them. So if they're able to make the playoffs, which I think might be a challenge for them because Panther City has started to turn a corner. They picked up a really
Yes.
big win over Saskatchewan this week, and I think it's going to be difficult to track them down. But it's entirely possible that Vegas could be knocking on the doorstep for a possible, number 4 spot when the season's over. You don't know what happens with Saskatchewan. You don't know what happens with Colorado, but I think they're going to have a hard time tracking down San Diego, Calgary, or Panther City. If they're able to get there, though, the NLL is a wild league, and that first round is one and done. So it only takes one good win to push yourself into a best 2 out of 3. And if you're Vegas and you're that 12-round fighter, a 2 out of 3 series is exactly what you want. You want an opportunity to take some punches and still be able to hang around and not have everything be condensed so much down into a single game.
Like Sean Williams is like low-key promoting their sport while also using it for lacrosse. So it's just 12-round fighter is very similar to what Vegas likes to do and watch boxing and UFC. That's a great line by him. Real quick, you spoke about Saskatchewan. I'm advocating for a trade. I don't know if they're going to do it, but if let's say both teams are still intact, Seals and Rush, tell me why the Rush are going to win that game. I'm kidding. Just tell me about the preview.
No, I think it's a tough matchup because Saskatchewan plays really, really well at home. They always have. The SaskTel Center is not a friendly place to road team. I think they've won 10 out of their last 12 there. San Diego did beat them there last year. They also lost a game there. So I think it's going to be extremely competitive. I think that one thing you're going to see is a San Diego team that's a lot more motivated to play a sustained 60-minute effort than they did 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks ago, I should say, when they lost to Saskatchewan. But I think you're going to see a motivated Rush team that gets up for the best teams. They have this weird tendency to struggle against Vancouver and Panther City and kind of the mid-tier or the lower tier. But when Colorado comes to town or San Diego comes to town, they're at their best. So I would expect to see a really competitive game. The biggest question mark for me is what Alex Bouquet looks like.
Amen.
The last couple of games, he has not looked like the all-star goaltender he was the first half of the season. And while they do have Eric Penny, who's as good of a backup as there is in the NLL, if you're playing San Diego, a team that can put up 15 goals in a hurry, and your goaltender's not playing well, that's a dangerous situation to be in.
To be fair, the first 2 games the Seals and Rush have played, Bouquet is not allowed the peppering, but it might get close if he keeps it up. So,
and Bouquet always plays well against San Diego. He's played well against the Seals as long as they've been in the league. The one exception to that was the fourth quarter of the game back in December when San Diego went on that 9-0 run. But outside of that little isolated 15-minute stretch, he's had the Seals number. And I think if you're Saskatchewan, they're probably aware of that, and they have to be confident in him, and I think he'll be confident. It's just going to be a fun game. It's going to be good lacrosse, and that's what we hope for at this time of the season, where teams are playing a competitive game that is entertaining to watch.
You mentioned that game where Bouquet went, where he allowed those goals, and I remember you saying, "Wake up, the kids, it ain't over." That was a great line by you.
Appreciate that. Yeah, losing my voice that game. So
you were, that was worth it though.
Thankful that's behind us.
Right. Thanks so much, Cooper Perkins, or Cooper, whatever you want to be called. Great job by you once again. Thank you for all you do. I'm advocating for you to be Media Person of the Year, even if you don't want to admit it. You're doing great work with everything you do.
Thanks, Mike. You're going to have a hard time finding the votes for that one, but I appreciate the vote of confidence from you.
Here I am. All right, man. Thank you so much again.
Take care, buddy.
Cooper Perkins, everybody. That was fun. And again, I'm happy the audio was awesome on that because we needed that for Stadium Showdown recap, and we got it. What we also got is 3 stars to give out. Those 3 stars are very precious in my eyes. So who are they? I've already teased one of them possibly. Do one of the Seals get one? We'll have to find out next on Daily Dive. We'll wrap it up next with our last brew. Follow Daily Dive on social media. Daily Dive Lax. That's Daily Dive LAX. It's our last brew presented by BREZ Coffee Company. Search BREZ Coffee Company and check out the great flavors. Use the code Daily Dive when you check out with those awesome morning or anytime you want flavors. You know what? Every weekend since the beginning of the show, every week, we have had 3 special things to give out. There are 3 stars. These stars are very important to us. They add to players' legacies. God, I wish that'd be awesome. Can you imagine like if we're having Hall of Fame talks in the future? Like, well, he had 55 stars in his career. Yes, sir. Pipe dreams. But they're very important to us because there's a lot of great performances every week as we're learning in the LL with this season 1 of this show. Let's give them out. Number 1, the man who played 2 games this weekend, well, one of the men that played 2 games this weekend, it's a goalie who made 55 saves last night to stun the Rock, including a stretch where he allowed the Rock no goals through over 20 minutes. The highest scoring team in the league had more than 20 minutes of a scoring drought. This man also held Jeff Teets, my best friend Jeff Teets. He's calling me. I'm kidding. He's not calling me. To 1 goal, even though his team had 12. His name is Zach Higgins, and he is the first star of the weekend here for the Daily Dive. Number 2, this man was another goalie. He held the Thunderbirds. Yes, the Thunderbirds scored just 9 goals against this 40-year-old who in the same game broke the record for goalie games played. I raise you Matt Vince as star number 2. And number 3, this player has led his team now to not only 2 wins in a row, its first 2 wins of the season, including when the game went to overtime this weekend, even though they peppered him 20-4 last week. This man is a star and a face of the league, and with a 3-goal, 4-assist performance with 8 loose balls and only 2 turnovers. This man, 15 seconds in overtime, sniped one easily and said, we're out of here. We're going back home. I raise you Lyle Thompson as our 3rd star of the weekend. That's Zach Higgins, Matt Vince, and Lyle Thompson, your 3 stars of the weekend here for Daily Dive. Thanks so much for everyone tuning in. Tomorrow I'll give power rankings. We'll have Cody Jansen on the show to talk about all things Saskatchewan Rush. It's only right we give the Rush a chance, and I still want a trade to happen. We need one. Panther City kicked him in the mouth. We're going to ask Cody, what's next, pal? Because he can't keep losing. Can't beat the Seals and then lose 5 games, man. It's not how the NLL works. Got to win them all. You can't win them all, but you can at least try, right? Great weekend of lacrosse. It's over. I dig the Monday night games, man. I'm not going to lie. If every week we got a Monday night game, I would totally dig that. If that's possible. I know a lot of these guys work 9 to 5s, which is so frustrating at times. But give me a Monday night game every weekend. Yes, please. That's it for Daily Dive. I won't talk anymore. It's Monday through Friday, live, Daily Dive Lax. Subscribe to us on YouTube. 28 people already have. And for that, we thank you. And I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.